I'd like to share three short stories that are all actually kind of one bigger story about God being faithful. And I'm an introvert. My wife is very social. You probably know her even if you don't know me. She's probably the best question asker that I know. She's very social, and that's not how God made me. And I think that's okay. But as a result, I don't often feel like I'm much of an evangelist. And I've had a fair amount of self-consciousness about that over the years. But in these last 6 months, I've found myself in three kind of distinct conversations with three different longtime friends, each of whom I've known for at least 10 years. And they're all looking for answers from God, with me, apparently. And the first one is a longtime friend who's a Christian. He grew up, or was a Christian, is a Christian. I don't know how that works, but he grew up in a Christian home. And for this last season of life, has really been wrestling and struggling and has walked away from the church. And I can't count the number of times that we've had deep, deep conversations about his faith questions and where he's at in his journey. And now it seems like his marriage is going to end. And so I find myself wrestling and looking for the transformative power of God in this guy's life and trying to talk to him about it, and both of us curious why we don't see that more clearly. And the second one is a friend I've known almost 20 years, and he's a staunch agnostic. He wants to believe in God, he wants to believe in Jesus, but he just doesn't think that there's enough evidence for that. And so lately, the last few months, I'll get a text message at 11 or 12 or 1 in the morning about some existential question about existence, or sometimes a really specific question about who Jesus is. And I'll find myself in an apologetics debate with him at midnight, and he'll be taking all of my answers and typing it into ChatGPT to get responses back. So it's 1 in the morning, and I'm debating the whole internet about the existence of God. And I don't have those answers. And so we do that for a couple hours, and it's the middle of the night, and we don't come to any conclusions. And so we both go to sleep, and then the next week, he does it again. And so we keep doing that. And the third is a dear friend who was raised in a home that practiced a different religion and doesn't know the Lord, but has always been curious about faith. And we've had so many faith conversations over almost 20 years. And now he's been accused of a crime and is very likely going to prison in the near future. And we've struggled with all sorts of questions together. And I've gotten frustrated with God about, why can't you be more clear? Why can you not be more transparent for this guy? We've wrestled with that for years. But I love the way that I can say that God is faithful, because it means I can trust him, that he'll come through, that even in my own weaknesses, I don't have to be the one that comes through in those types of situations. They're not all up to me to fix. I don't have to have all those answers. It's not up to me to be a marriage counselor that fixes everything or provides some sort of sign or wonder that my first friend can cling to. I don't have to have every answer, be able to answer the whole internet when I'm being asked existential questions at 3 in the morning. And I don't have to be, I don't think there's anything that anyone can say to somebody who's facing prison that makes it okay. But I think I'm getting to participate in some spaces where God is turning evil into something good. That's what I'm hoping for. There's a lot of stories in my life that are finished where I can point to God's faithfulness. How we came to Mill City, how we bought our home, how our kids have been raised, protected, come to know the Lord themselves. Stories of friends and marriages who have been restored and healed. And I cling to those stories. I can see God's faithfulness in those things. And so I know that even though none of these three stories are closed, I'm learning to look at them and to see the ways that I can see God in them and see the way that he's moving. And it's been a helpful practice of mine to find some safe people that I can verbally process the questions with, the frustration and the confusion about why God's methods or his timing aren't what I want. And I've also been able to use those as practices to thank God for the stories I do have, where the stories are over. And I can see how God was faithful in those moments, and I can point to them and cling to God's faithfulness. So these stories aren't over, and I don't know if any of the three of them are going to turn out the way that I hope. But I've seen enough of the Lord to know and to lean into that God is faithful and that our community can cling to that same faithfulness.